Today we're walking through how to do your very own DIY accent wall in your home or business, depending on where you want to do it, using Wise Owl Paint's 1 hour ceramic. And what I did is I decided to do a base coat of Snow Owl. That way the lines that you see me starting to tape off, when they get peeled off, will be that beautiful pure white color. So the bordering in and around all the geometric shapes will be that Snow Owl color. Now I started taping all this stuff off. You can see it's just that simple. Just start taping, and I actually have a diagram or design that I have that I'm going by. You see me kind of looking down for, but we had a little technical difficulty, and you'll see what I mean here in a second, which didn't allow me to record the whole process, but I explain a little bit here in a second. Well, so much for that. My iPad died, but you can kind of see exactly what I did. I finished taping off from the design, which I'll have up here in the video for you guys to see. I mean, it's a pretty simple process. Just tape off your lines. You want to pull the tape as tight as possible to keep the lines as straight as possible. You could use a level or something like that, a red line pointer thing, whatever you want to, if you feel like that's something you need to do, but I didn't think it needed to be that specific. The lines are going to be this Snow Owl, because this is Snow Owl underneath once I pull them off. So I wasn't really too concerned. I could touch it up or do whatever as I need to, but sorry about that. The video kind of messed up. My iPad decided it didn't want to record anymore, so I swapped you out for my phone now. So we're going to continue on with just basically time lapse and or a video with voiceover to show you exactly what I'm doing. But for the next step was to tape, put little tape spots into all the shapes that were done. That way I knew that I didn't need to add any more lines. And then it also serves as a good paint by numbers sticker. So we're going to pick, of the 8 colors we're going to use, we're going to pick a number for each, write the number in, and then just go square by square by the number that we're doing. So that'll be the next step. All right, so as I mentioned, we're going to do some paint by numbers action. I have my diagram on my iPad, and I'm just kind of going through and starting with 1 and working my way through to 8, making sure I get each and every one numbering exactly to the color. Now, this was a huge part. I'll be honest with you, like, you think it's kind of silly, but having those numbers and just having little sticky tapes in there to ensure you had everything exactly how you want it to takes it right back to those first days when you had your paint by number coloring books. And it just, again, talking through this being a DIY and sharing just how easy it can be, you make it as easy as you make it. So if you decide, to try to just wing it, and obviously you could miss, you could paint the wrong thing, there's all kinds of problems you could come across. So just take it from me, go ahead and stick a little piece of tape in there, to mark that shape has been created and is good to go, and then use that same tape to number it off. Now this is what we have. We have all the little tools that I needed, and boom, here we go. Here's my numbering process. I just numbered 1 through 8, labeled it, and there's my design I actually did in Photoshop, and that's a whole nother little bit, but really gave me a good setup. So I have these 3/8 inch nap rollers in their own little trays for all the colors except for the last 2, and we'll get to that here in a little bit too. So you can see all nice and taped off, all has their own little numbers, and it's not that hard. I mean, literally, I just took the tape. I didn't have another person help me. Took the tape, pulled it as tight as possible, and as you can see, when you have the shapes, whether that line was straight all the way across or not really doesn't matter, because you can see these shapes that we have in here. Once it's starting to be painted, the lines are shorter. It's just not gonna matter. But anyways, so we're starting off with INKWELL. And as you'll see, this color palette's kind of a cool mid-century modern style color palette as we go through, with some blues, some blue greens, and then we got into some lighter blue greens, orange, and we'll get there. But for now, INKWELL has this amazing 1-hour ceramic paint. It's 100% acrylic. It's a matte sheen. It's scrubbable. It's super stain resistant. It's all these amazing things. To me, really the biggest one is that it's that matte finish, and it just turns out beautiful in the end. And also, this is actually in my workshop space where I teach classes here in Clearwater, and I had people just walk up and touch it because it leaves this really beautiful, besides matte sheen, soft sheen, which is not something you usually get from a matte finish paint. And next up we have Abyss. There it is. There's my little logo. Abyss. So Abyss is probably our most sold paint color out of all of our paint lines that we have. It's a blue greenish color, and here's my kind of design too. I really just took this thing into Photoshop and created layers, and that allowed me to eye drop the different colors. And I'm telling you, it took probably an hour and a half, 2 hours to figure out exactly where to put the colors that I felt like made the most sense. And I think that was the trickiest part of this whole process. The actual painting part is easy, but the designing of and getting your geometric shapes to balance out and the color palette that you're using is probably the trickiest part. So any way you can get it into, you know, some type of software, PowerPoint, anything where you can move the shapes around is great. So Labyrinth is a new color for us at INKWELL, and it is specific to our 1-hour ceramic. Really beautiful. Oh yeah, see me? I had to actually take and use just like a shop towel down the line of the crack against the wall there, because I didn't have enough of my micro angle brushes here that day. But that's a little tip, little trick I guess, is if you have like little, you know, edging areas that you need to get to when you're rolling some paint on a wall, you can really just get it on. This stuff covers amazingly well, as you can see. So just that little bit of, you know, shop towel rubbing it down the edge covered. Now we are going to do 2 coats to this bad boy just to ensure we get complete coverage, but one was a lot. Well, now we have LUXE. LUXE is another one of those deep blue with a hint, gentle hint of gray to it. Another really cool special color. And again, we're sticking with the darker to start. So I went dark kind of to light and then added some other color ranges to it, but this was a very contrasty color palette as you went through. And then of course 1-hour ceramic is self-priming. So the biggest thing with that is that your walls are clean. It's also a low odor, so lower VOC paint. So one of the biggest things for me is the safety of all the INKWELL products and what it's been able to do for me painting inside, and the wall paint is no different. It's definitely extremely low VOC, and you're not going to have those headaches that you would get from some other paints. Now this is Eon. This is another it's tricky color. It's a green with a little bit of gray. It's going to dry a little lighter, as you'll see it'll start to go, but just another pretty color. And this is where you start to see me pull in more of the greens and go that direction for the next couple of colors. Oh yeah, saran wrap. Have lots of saran wrap. I wrapped up each one of the rollers, and like a big dummy, I only had one actual roller. Oh, here we go, BOCA GRANDE. This is a much lighter color. It's like a white light green color. So, you know, just getting towards that lighter color within this range that I had. And again, surface preparation, you know, if you're doing anything that's not clean or a wall, you want to use some primer. But as long as you have a wall that is not flaking or falling apart. This wall actually was pretty old, so I did that wiping it down pretty good. But the paint that was there prior to me painting the snow wall base was good enough that I was able to not have to worry about priming. You should not have to prime unless you're painting something that's really bad. Now we get into different colors. We're in a blush, and it's exactly that. It's a skin tone pink kind of color. And you see I've transitioned into a foam roller. Honestly, it was just simply because I ran out of my other rollers. This is another method you could use, especially if you're using if you're doing this kind of thing on a smaller scale, like the smaller parts just happens to be the blush. So I saved the foam rollers for those sections. So it's another just little tip, little trick you can use. Ultimately, the paint is pretty self-leveling, so regardless of what kind of brush you're going to use, it's going to level out pretty well for you. And last but not least, Moroccan Sunset. Now this one really gave it some pop of vibrant color to totally contrast everything else I've done, which really added to the overall look. So application, as I mentioned, 3/8" snap woven roller is what you can use for most indications of or applications that you're going to do on bigger walls. So if you're just going to paint your entire wall, that's the way you'd go. I went with, I think those are 4" rollers, again just because I was doing smaller sections for this accent wall, but you can use just your normal roller if you're rolling it on as a full coverage. But the small ones were perfect, although I only had one roller for the first round, which I would recommend having a roller for each. They're fairly cheap to go by. That way you don't have to swap out the roller cover, which you can see all along the tops of those wrapped in plastic wrap. And then of course I missed a spot, so I had to go back and hit up that spot to knock it out real quick. All right, finished second coat of all the paint colors, and the proof is in the pudding. We're going to pull off the tape. We're going to see how this is going to work. I'm going to put you back and fast forward again and do the voiceover, but it's all done. It's still drying. So I'm a little nervous to pull the tape off, how that's going to work. I'm probably going to do some touch up because this wall is old and bumpy and all that kind of stuff. So there probably will be a little bit of bleed through here and there, but that's why I did the base coat Snow Owl, so I know what color to touch up if I need to. And I'm going to have some nice, beautiful white lines, hopefully. So fingers crossed, here we go. All right, so this was my first time ever doing this, and I did record it and walk through, the whole process because I wanted to share, how it went. And for me, pulling the tape was pretty nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie, because you weren't sure, did everything hold? Did everything do what it's supposed to? And it did. Check it out. It's looking really good. Oh, by the way, cleanup. If you're wondering, water base, soapy water, be good to go. And coverage is crazy. So I kept peeling tape, and again, I was nervous because this is an older building, older walls, and we did have a couple spots that peeled up. Now, it didn't peel up the paint that I used, it peeled up the paint from underneath, and there's really no way to tell. If you're in a space like this is actually a store that's had the wall painted time and time and time again, you have no way of knowing what's underneath. So you have to go into it knowing, if you're in one of those situations, if you're doing this in your house or in your workspace area, that you might have touch up. So touch up is probably something that will happen, and I'll have a little video in here to share a little bit more about how I did the touch up here shortly. But ultimately, I'm just peeling tape. It's showing that beautiful snow wall lines from below. Just taking your time, I think, is the biggest thing. Depending on what kind of tape you use. I use this blue shop tape. I've used frog tape before, and it sticks so much that when you have layers of paint on a wall, as an example, that you don't know what's going on below because it wasn't yours beforehand, it sticks so much that it sometimes will peel the paint right off the wall, whatever paint that was there prior to you starting to do your thing. Alright, so after all the tape's gone, this is what you get, y'all. Beautiful white lines from pulling the tape off. And then this was my setup on the table. I wanted to show one last quick view of that. I did end up getting rollers for each color instead of having to swap out the roller cover on one roller. That was a little silly. I don't know why I did that. And then trays for each, and it just makes it go by quick. The rollers are pretty cheap, so I would highly recommend you get rollers and roller covers for each color. And this is the final result. 1R ceramic, matte finish, beautiful colors, saturation, matte finish, durable, scrubbable, all the amazing things you can get with Wise Owl, and you can do a wall like this too. Hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully it shows you just how easy it can be to make your own accent wall in your home today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, subscribe, and of course, if you want to find any of these amazing products, links are in the description of the video down below. Have a blessed day and happy painting.